For today's episode, get ready for a thrilling discussion as we unpack the challenges and opportunities facing the passenger transport industry, the importance of safety, and Unitrans' innovative approach to creating safe, comfortable, and sustainable passenger transport solutions. For this discussion, please welcome Derek, Basil, and Grant.
Hi, I'm Basil Govender. I head up business development for Unitrans Passenger. Nice to meet you, Nobuntu, and looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Basil.
Hi, my name's Grant Fleetwood. I'm the Human Capital Executive for Unitrans Passenger. It's very nice to be here.
Thank you, Grant.
I'm Derek Lewis. I'm the executive for Unitrans Passenger. I head up the business, and these two gentlemen are part of my manco.
Excellent. Basil, maybe let's start with you. If you could please paint a picture for us of what the passenger transport landscape looks like.
Sure, will do. So when it comes to road-based passenger transport, South Africa and Africa have similarities, both emerging economies, developing nations, and there's a general belief that transport's not working. But if you look at that conundrum, every day millions of people get to where they want to go. They get to work, get to school, get to university. So it is working. So if I had to best sum up the transport landscape, it is optimal inefficiency. And the reason I say that is it works, but it can be so much better. But again, it's a competing ideological space for transport, because post 94, rapid urbanization, no planning to supplement that. So those challenges are all in a mix that creates what I call optimal inefficiency at this point in time.
Okay, so in terms of the passenger transport business, how does it work? Who are your customers? Are they corporates? What does that look like?
In the broader South African transport space, commuting is loosely arranged around formal transport, informal transport. That would be the bus and train and airways, that kind of thing. And then the informal, largely dominated by the taxi industry. And one of the issues that talk to this optimal inefficiency is the fact that what should be our backbone, i.e. the rail transport system, has spectacularly collapsed in the last 3 decades or so, and it's created an informal environment for the taxi industry, which is pretty much part of our fabric, and we can't take that away. So it's now a case of saying, how do we mesh all of that? And then where we come into that space is to provide commercial solutions from a transport point of view.
Okay, and having touched on the rail and taxis, are you offering long distance, local solutions?
So we primarily support and provide services around urban and or commercial space, which is in the mining and personnel transport space.
Got it. I see what that looks like. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
You've given us a little bit of flavor of how some of the challenges arose, rapid urbanization, and how does Unitrans come in then and make sense of all this?
So, with some degree of difficulty, because we have our own space, we are perhaps one of, if not in my opinion, the only truly diversified commuter passenger service operator, because we have a spectrum of services that none of our competitors are able to deliver. Given that range of services, we've harnessed the skills, we've developed the niche to be able to tailor and evolve with market dynamics. And it's difficult. Two keywords again come to fore: transition and transformation. So they sound similar, but they're different. We have to transition our network, our transport system. But whilst doing that, we have to transform to redress some of the legacy issues post-94, which haven't really happened. And sitting in all of that, how we navigate it is try to create direction for policy certainty, try to create sustainability for ourselves as an entity and our shareholders. So giving the right service and at the right returns, whilst meeting converging needs of our customers to ensure that host community operators and localization comes to the fore.
Wow, that is such a big role. But you've made me so curious now in terms of the services. Do you want to unpack what those look like, please?
Yeah, so Basil has teed it up a little bit. So maybe just to explain, he did allude to the fact that that Unitrans Passenger is a very unique player in the industry, in that we touch on a number of key transport services and verticals. So the ones that I suppose would be most common and understood would be the commuter services. In big cities, there are traditional players that provide commuter services for everyday commuters who need to get to work, perhaps even get to school, etc. So we provide those services in the Northwest. We've got a big operation there called Bojanala. We also have a commuter service in the Northern Cape and in Mpumalanga and Secunda. So I suppose that would be the most traditional, most understood service or vertical that we operate in.
Would that be competing with somebody like a Patco?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So it would be a Patco in Gauteng, not a direct competitor, because they have set routes and they've established routes for literally actually decades. And the same in Cape Town, where you would have Golden Arrow that essentially have been operating for many years and have established themselves. And we are the same and have legacy contracts with the departments and essentially the provinces in different provinces and municipalities. And those are long-dated contracts as well.
So just to make sure I'm following you, Derek, you're saying that the likes of Patco, Golden Arrow, they have set routes kind of like the taxi operators. But the taxi operators have set routes, right? You can't just drive anywhere you like.
Well, not quite, but yeah.
So Basil alluded to it. Yes, they do have set routes. I wouldn't say that they would be formalized, but they are unwritten set routes. So from a formalized perspective, they would be governed by permits. So there would be a subsidized service offering, commuter service offering in certain routes, and those routes accommodate the community and need to be adjusted with regards to urban sprawl. You mentioned earlier with regards to where we operate. So over time there is an element of change, but by and large they are the same routes over a period of time that commuters get used to and depend on as well. So that commuter is the one vertical. The next would be personnel, and again Basil alluded to it, and that talks to employee transport ultimately. That's business to business. So we have big contracts with mines. And we also operate in the agricultural sector, and essentially we provide the service for corporates or businesses to essentially transport their employees to and from work safely, and that is essentially our competitive advantage. In that we have there's essentially almost a flight to quality where we provide a high quality service and with an established track record and reputation, and we are able to actually transport employees on time as well, which is also massively important with regards to shift workers.
Right. And
then the third vertical is unique in that we manage big contracts. So the most recognizable is that we run the Gautrain bus feeder service and have done so since inception. So the Gautrain started running in 2010, and that was for the Soccer World Cup in 2010. And so since that time, we've, for now nearly 15 years, have run the golden buses that run around Johannesburg, if you are from this area. We do the same for My City in Cape Town, and Go George in George as well, for the municipality there. So essentially, the difference there is that we don't run the contract end to end, but we ensure that the operators have a high level of uptime, which essentially means that from a technical services perspective, we make sure that the wheels are turning on a daily basis.
Let's stay with you and talk about some aspects related to bus safety, commuter safety, keeping your passengers safe. What are the critical ones to be mindful of?
So I think that safety, Basil talked about cliches, and I would like to start off with one, is that safety begins with every individual. So as as a commuter, as well as our responsibility, everyone has that responsibility in terms of safety, in terms of the environment. So for a commuter perspective, I would say as a commuter, what would be important for you to look out for is ensuring that the driver looks the part and that the bus is aesthetically looking the part as well. It is clean. Not from a technical level, I don't expect people to start kicking tires, but essentially making sure that the vehicle is in an orderly condition. The driver himself, the driver conductor, needs to be wearing a uniform. How often have you been on a plane where the pilot hasn't worn a uniform? And I suppose if you did ever have that experience, then it would probably be your last in terms of that airline. Likewise, with commuters, they need to make sure that every driver is wearing a uniform, looks the part, and the small things take care of themselves. Then from a little bit more of a technical level in the commuter space, making sure that the destination boards, if you are bringing on valuables, that they are locked away and that they are secure, and that when you leave that you take them with you. And essentially we've been operating in this industry and in that vertical in terms of commuter transport specifically for over 30 years. So it is something that we do well and we pride ourselves on.
Very good. Anything that you want to add there?
I think the big thing for us is that from a safety point of view is also in terms of the community, what we've done is that we've not only been the guys that are operating within the community, but we've set up a lot of safety initiatives in the communities where our driver trainers will go to a school, for instance, and educate the kids on the do's and don'ts and why is it so important to, as a pedestrian, to look out for a bus, or what do you do if you are walking on the side of the road and it's busy traffic. So we from our side, from a road safety point of view, want to make sure that even the communities in which we operate are aware of what road safety is all about, and those programs are put in place by us.
So this is part of your formal CSI plan, that there will be that kind of work that happens in the communities.
Yeah, it originally started off just as an idea where in our Africa operation, up in Mozambique, we had a situation where those are some of the most difficult road. The operation of the roads there is something scary. The road safety there is almost non-existent. Guys would ride motorbikes without helmets and things like that. So the guys up in Mozambique took the initiative to take road safety to the kids at school. And what we basically did was we just brought it back to South Africa, not as an initiative, as a formal initiative, but just as something we could give back to the community. So we just developed a training program ourselves, put it into the local language, got the driver trainers to present that in the local language. The schools gave us half an hour of their assembly, and we went into the schools and started educating the kids on a bit of road safety.
So we essentially piloted this in Mozambique. We saw that it's working, and then you rolled it out in your other markets.
We brought it back. Yeah.
I didn't ask earlier, what does the footprint look like on the continent?
So we operate in 2 territories, so in South Africa and in Mozambique.
In Mozambique.
Yeah, so we've got a big contract in the northern provinces of Mozambique, and the 2 cities are Tet and Nacala, and that is in the personnel space, so it's actually for a mining contract. So it's employee transport.
Yeah, okay, great. Awesome.
Nabantu, just doubling back on the safety aspect. What we do as a team and as Unitrans is that focus of safety being a way of life, and the kind of daily focus on it, and reporting of near misses. Third party and public behavior is a huge concern, and that's something of a macro type of problem that needs concerted collaborative effort. Yeah.
Which is why the scholar transport or the scholar education initiatives that you're talking about are so important, helping the youngsters understand what it is to be safe on the road. Does the CSI program spread beyond that, or is it confined to education in schools?
At the moment, we've basically concentrated a lot on the kids.
Okay.
From a CSI initiative, it's not that big in terms of road safety. We do communicate regularly with the industry bodies on road safety. We've recently, we're very proud, some of our drivers won the Hollard Best Driver in the Industry Award. So, we do take it seriously. We involve in those competitions, and the competition between our own employees is pretty good because everybody wants the prize at the end of the day. So, that was pretty successful for us last year, and we've entered the program again this year.
What is the prize, Grant? Does it get the drivers excited?
Yeah, last year, the first prize was 100 grand. So,
okay, I'll drive for 100 grand. I'll drive.
and it's a very prestigious thing. The guys came to Johannesburg. The driver who won it comes from our depot in Kuruman.
Nice.
And what they basically do is they put infrastructure onto the vehicle that measures the braking, the acceleration. Does the driver make any harsh movement? And they measure it over a couple of months, and they then, as you go into from one month to the next, they weed out the guys who are in the back of the queue, and then you end up with the guys who are cream of the crop. And we basically from our side then. The guys have got special uniforms that say they're the drivers of the year.
Yes, please.
So, it's a big thing for us to make our own staff have that internal competition with each other to see if they can perhaps be the one that gets the 100 grand at the end of the day.
Absolutely. But it's a big thing just because of the nature of the initiative, right, Grant? I was talking to your colleagues from another business unit, and they were talking about how we use telematics with drivers in the petroleum space. Mm-hmm. And there you understand we're carrying cargo that's dangerous, high value, but here it's lives, right? How do you put a value on that? I didn't realize that telematics could also be used in the passenger space. So that's a real fascinating development. Yeah. While we're talking industry, Grant, what would you say are the biggest challenges facing the transport industry in terms of attracting and retaining talent?
I think the biggest thing is that it's not a glamorous, working in the transport industry is not really that glamorous. And I think there has to be a degree of dedication. The culture within the organization is definitely something that attracts people to come and work. So, it's having that passion and displaying that passion to everybody else that at the end of the day, there is a lot of attraction. We find that once the guys get you and once you've got people in the passenger transport industry, they tend to stay. It's just getting over that initial hurdle of saying, right, I'm in the transport industry. But our turnover that we've experienced is a labor force that do stick around. And it becomes something that is enjoyable for the guys to do. The customers, we've had incidences where the customers actually have insisted on, my driver must come back to my route. And, it's having that connection with the public that becomes very important. So, our turnover in terms of longevity of our drivers is very, very low. The guys tend to stick around. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of guys that have got 30 to 35 years service, and they actually love what they do. Mm-hmm. And you can see it when, like Derek said, with the vehicles that are always clean and you maintain them properly and things like that. That's what the employees actually want is just to know that they're in a reliable vehicle. They can give the commuters what they want. So it's very important for us to look after those type of things.
And tell me, can I come in there?
Of course.
So one of those people that Grant is referring to is actually himself. So he's been in the business for 25 years.
Uh-huh. Where did you start?
I actually started on the mines.
Uh-huh.
I did a program on the mines, and then in 1998 I joined Unitrans. So been here for quite a while. So, but it's, as I say, it's in my blood. My blood is blue. So, I've been here for quite a while.
Very nice.
Picking up on that, and Grant's more an exception to the rule. And I think it's important that I highlight you can be a victim of that success. So, in the cold light of day, transport forever and a day has been male dominated.
Yeah.
So, in the transition, that male is now on the wrong side of the sunset, and the skill sets go with them. So traditionally, the brain's trust is reaching an end of cycle. And what we've not been good at is creating continuity.
You know, Basil, you read my mind, because as Grant was talking, I was thinking and just talking about how the industry is not attractive. No, I don't know if any little kid has a fantasy, you know, the ones that want to be Batman, or I don't know if anyone wants to be a bus driver, right? So how do you get over that initial hurdle of making it attractive? And because that is such a, because of that challenge, you're probably sitting with an aging, the profile of your truck driver is an aging one.
Not just drivers, I'm talking about in the policy planning space, the strategy space. So your transport economists. So
okay.
generally,
Those
yes, you know, your driver age profile through churn and rotation. Grant's got that down to find out. He keeps, and I don't want to talk to his space, but transitioning and transforming the industry from being older male dominated with all the resident knowledge and institutional knowledge to a younger. And that's where you need to create that excitement for younger generation to come through and say, it's not just about being a driver or a manager. You influence transport and its planning and its space going forward. And I think for a younger generation, I think that's what they don't really see. And there's their opportunities for transition.
How is Unitrans turning that into an opportunity?
So I think from an attraction perspective, we talk about a people value proposition. So our core values, just to, I suppose, name a couple out of the number that we have, but we talk about putting people first, collaborate for impact, and we take ownership. And those three values, I think, talk to why people want to stay with us. It talks to their own values in terms of their communities as leaders in their communities. And in their homes. And it talks to, I suppose, an inner purpose that transcends an environment and necessarily a job title. So it is a little bit deeper, it's a bit more intrinsic, and it talks to how our safety culture has perpetuated over so many years.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Grant, can we come back to you? You, how many long service awards have you received so far? Too many to count.
Too many to count, yeah.
What has made you and other employees like you stay the distance, stay the course with Unitrans? What are you doing differently there?
I think the big thing is that no single day is the same. I think it's a very I couldn't see myself sitting behind a computer from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night doing the same thing every day. Every day is exciting. It's always different. It's being able to visit our vast network of operations, meeting the different people, understanding that we all have one goal in mind, and that is to serve the community and the passenger at the end of the day. And I think that for me is being something that I have really enjoyed.
Serving your communities and serving the customers. That's what keeps you coming back.
Just to add on to that, so I think that also talks to our competitive advantage, and we referred to it earlier with regards to us playing in a number of verticals. And Unitrans Passenger, to our knowledge, is the only player in all three of those verticals. And with regards to someone that comes in and has learned a set of skills in the commuter space, not only from an operating perspective as a driver, but from a technical side, mechanics, foremans, etc., and they're developing a skill that is unique, and they then are very valuable in terms of us being able to place in unique remote contracts out in the Northern Cape, Northern Western Cape, or in Mozambique as an example, and those skills are valuable. And those are fit to market, and then you're able to actually even further actually deploy those people in their own career life cycle into contract management, and be able to actually manage big contracts with those skills. So there's there's career trajectory, and it's aligned to not just one role wearing one cap for a number of decades. You're growing as a person, and you're growing in your career as well.
Absolutely. And not just, there's opportunities for horizontal movement as well as
Correct.
lateral upward movement, which makes it quite attractive. Very good. Great. What are some of the unique things you're doing in terms of skills development?
What we've basically, and from the beginning, when we started our learnership program, for instance, for our drivers, we went through a couple of years where we tested where we were going to employ people, and we decided that we would concentrate our learnership programs in the rural areas. And what we decided that we would primarily address the amount of ladies that were actually driving buses. And what we decided to do was that we would, approximately 80% of the intake of all our learnerships would be women. And what we did was, and one of our success stories is our Secunda operation, for instance, where more than a third of the drivers there are ladies. And we continue to employ the ladies as we go through these programs. The pity is that as we train the guys, everybody else is stealing them, because everybody wants to have the ladies, and we'll continue with the training programs that we have in place, and we'll continue to have a situation where more than 30% of our drivers are ladies, and we will move that on into our other operations. We've put in a lot of work into our technical side. We've got close to, every year we've got close to about 20-25 artisans in training, and that for us is very important. And then all the
Artisans are going to end up in what kind of a role?
It's guys like diesel mechanics, guys
got
who
it.
work in the auto
In the
electric.
workshops.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great.
And I think it's very important for us because we maintain our own vehicles. It's not that we get third parties to maintain. We make sure that we're accountable for the vehicles and how they operate. So because of that, we sit with about 300 people in the technical department, and we sit with a situation where the skills development in the technical side has been a bit lacking generally in the country. So if we've got to keep up with the development of the vehicles and that type of thing, we've got to make sure that we have quality artisans in place, and the only way that we can do that is by having these training programs that are put in place.
That is incredible. So you spoke about learnerships, which focusing a lot, like significantly upweighted towards rural communities, which I totally understand, because I think sometimes we forget about people living in the rural areas. And I love the fact that you encouraging women to come into the force, because you've mentioned how historically it was a male-dominated space. But please, can we go back to Secunda? What is happening in that operation? What type of operation is it?
Secunda is one of our commuter operations. It's based very close to the Sasol plant. Primarily, in terms of the commuter operation, it's taking commuters to the plant.
Sasol employees.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course doing all the other commuter type work that's required. So there's approximately about 400 people there, of which I'd say about 300 are drivers. So we basically do the commute for the employees on a daily basis. Taking them from the surround Standerton, those areas, back into the plant for the government. It's a government contract, but primarily Sasol employees.
Great. And that's where you said that a third of them are ladies, a third of the drivers are ladies. Yeah. Okay, now you, hand on your heart, you got to be honest when you answer this one. Are female bus drivers better than male bus drivers?
I'm going to say I'm going to plead the fifth.
This is South Africa. The Fifth Amendment does not apply.
It's under review.
What we found is that through the training programs, we've actually our safety has improved. There's been a lot of competition. I think the gents are a bit embarrassed when they're out, when the ladies are better than them, and it creates.
I think I have my answer.
It creates healthy competition, and it has improved our safety record. So yeah, the jury's still out, but yeah, it has made the operation a lot safer over the years. Yeah.
I love hearing that. And do you want to say something, Baz?
I'll pick up on you. Go first.
No,
yeah.
I wanted to say that is a great way of fostering diversity and inclusion in the organization.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask what other initiatives around diversity and inclusion.
And I'll let Grant and Derek talk to the genesis of it. So one of the things we don't get in the mainstream part is our joint ventures.
Yeah.
So the joint venture essentially incorporates local host communities as partners in a new entity to support contracts or to manage contracts. And we've had, in the large, great degrees of success. And I think essentially from a skills transfer, there's a documented process of skills transfer for somebody who has had no inkling of business and formalization in a contracted space. And I think, Derek, you'll talk to, I think some of them have been intergenerational now from the start, like Margaret with MB, and the BAPO community themselves. So that skills transfer doesn't get, and you don't necessarily want to blow your vuvuzela about that. It's about the doing. So at the end of the contract, you've literally should have created a new entrepreneur, fully scaled.
Mm-hmm.
And Grant actually designs that program meticulously.
So this is your enterprise and supply development
Correct.
initiative.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's basically putting those guys in a position to run their business after initial 5-year joint venture, whatever the case might be, and giving them that necessary skill to take their business further.
Trying to replicate another mini Unitrans passenger service somewhere.
To a degree. So some of the skills can be diverse from operational management, but they can also be a little bit more refined. So as an example, we have a joint venture in the northwest, Lebzotic, and we almost insisted that the partner was the chairman of our board, and that is he was reluctant, but it's something that is a skill set that takes, you need to be behind the wheel to be able to drive. And that is something that he is thankful for now, and he runs our board meetings.
So what does the future look like, gentlemen, in terms of passenger transport? And what role does Unitrans play in terms of shaping this future?
So I think Basil started off painting the picture of a unique industry that has its challenges. But I think that does pose a lot of opportunities that we can play a fundamental role in. There's what they call an integrated transport network plan that government and provinces are looking to put together, and that doesn't just incorporate bus passenger transport, but it includes rail and includes taxis and includes last mile as well. And it's about putting it together and moving or collaborating with, I suppose, in terms of our own experience, and that's where we can play a role, and just assisting with regards to how we see things shaping in the future. And I definitely think that is important because from a structure perspective, it just doesn't make sense to have 100% of commuter transport only coming through taxis. Our roads and infrastructure can't support it, and we play a role. And there's also a role to play with regards to passenger rail, and it's about joining those, and that's why it's called integrated. And that has been talked about for a number of years, but hasn't quite been able to come about as a blueprint. And as we renegotiate our long-standing commuter contracts, as an example, we put forward our ideas as to how we see it looking like in the future, and we collaborate with province, and we collaborate with other stakeholders like our competitors in terms of the taxis, and we try to find common ground in terms of what is best for everyone.
Back to Basil's point earlier on, where you were talking about the fact that what's really driving the passenger transport requirement is the fact that we are a developing economy with low income consumers. So from that point of view, are you secure that like nobody's about to disrupt this industry anytime soon?
Not, there will be disruptors, but I think that's more, and one cannot obviate the AI and the technology space. That improves things, but it creates other challenges because you have a workforce that's manually skilled at writing things, now going into automation and technology. But I think if I had to sum it up, and we did a write-up, it calls, in terms of our core value of collaborating for impact, for the public-private partnership. So that's an evolving space. Government knows that it's the route to go. Private sector knows it's the route to go. It's probably calling for a meeting of minds. And maybe you have another job as a facilitator there. If that can get to a point where there's sufficient consensus, let the skill set manage what government needs to put in terms of infrastructure and sustainability. Then you get continuity without the disruption. But in terms of pure disruption, I think it'll be technology-based. And that's a whole different discussion.
Gentlemen, this has been such an enlightening conversation. I did not understand half of the intricacies of the passenger transport business before this conversation. So thank you very much. Closing comments from your side as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think not too many, other than, as mentioned before, there are a number of challenges in this industry, but certainly we know the value that we can bring, and with those challenges, they present opportunities. And we understand that we have a very unique responsibility that talks to one of our values in terms of taking ownership. And without a doubt, we feel that we would be able to contribute to a brighter and more prosperous passenger transport industry.
Derek, I believe you. Thank you so much.
I think from my side, it's, for somebody who's been here for so long, and I think that the big thing is retention of employees is going to be very important for us. Making sure that we have the necessary pipeline going forward, so we don't end up in a situation where those guys with experience leave and there's nobody to replace them. So I think from my side, it's going to be very important how we manage talent, and taking forward how we can keep on attracting the people that we are, and making sure that, with the technological advancements that are coming along in buses and things like that, is how do we attract people to our business. That is going to be very important for us.
Thank you, Grant.
Yeah, and I think in closing, see the glass is half full, not half empty. And I think, the opportunities are there. And passenger within Unitrans and within CUP, I think, is positioned well to be the right corporate citizen and make the right contributions. And yeah, exciting times.
All right, folks, that was a deep dive into the world of Unitrans passenger division. From their commitment to safety to their focus on employee well-being, their significant impact on the passenger transport landscape is clear. Unitrans believes in the power of doing. To us, doing is moving. Moving is progress. Progress is impact. Impact is growth. And growth is the potential of a continent unleashed. Let's continue to make it happen together. Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to listen to the full Make It Happen series, and these episodes can be found on Unitrans' YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment, like, and share with a friend.